For today's video, I'm gonna do a summon session, and hopefully, I could get my first legendary champion through summoning. I have 25 ancient shards, 10 void shards, and 10 sacred shards to work with. The good thing about this game is that there's no such thing as a useless champion. While some champions have underwhelming kits, they can be used as fodders to strengthen your main champions. Some could even be used as sacrifice to unlock stronger champions. I'll be starting with Ancient Shards, followed by Void Shards and Sacred Shards. Ancient Shards has a chance to get rare, epic, and legendary rarity, but even getting an epic rarity has very low chance. Let's see if we can get at least one epic champion. I might skip some summons if I find them underwhelming or not interesting, but before I begin, here's some news from Raid. Currently, Raid is running one of its biggest events to date called the Asgard Divide. It is a massive update that features 4 legendary champions from Norse mythology. So, the new Norse mythological champions are Loki, Thor, Freya, and Odin. You can collect them through the whole Asgard Divide event, which runs from August 21st to November 22nd. They are Raid's unique take on the familiar figures from Norse mythology, casting them as members of the mysterious and powerful Fae that are present in the world of Teleria. What's crazy is you can get Loki the Deceiver for free, a legendary champion rarity. You simply need to log into Raid for 7 days between now and October 23rd. Players can then log in for an additional 7 days after that to earn even more rewards, and access a second phase of rewards once the 14 days of login bonuses have been earned. These rewards are surely to make your Loki become more powerful. You can get the other 3 Norse mythology champions through in-game activities. To summarize what these champions do, Loki the Deceiver is a master of chaos and mischief, who can evade enemy attacks and cloak himself under the perfect veil buff. Thor Feyhammer is the harbinger of the storm who deals incredible damage to his opponents, and uses the brand new Thunder counter to deal powerful AoE damage. Odin Feyfather is the lord of the Mountain Hall of Asgard. He has access to the Berserk debuff, which increases the damage a target takes and deals out. He can steal enemy buffs, revive his allies, and deal crazy single-target damage. Freya Fateweaver is the golden defender of Asgard. Freya protects her allies with buffs to their defense, impenetrable shields, and the ability to prevent the death of the ally with the highest critical damage. As part of the Asgard Divide, players can enter a time-limited dungeon where you can fight a boss connected to the current event. You will be fighting Odin Feyfather, and get very useful relics if you win. Get a huge head start with a free legendary champion, Sun Wukong, also known as the Monkey King from Chinese mythology and folklore. The first step is to download the game through my link and use the promo code Monkey King to get your Sun Wukong. Note that the promo code only works if you are a new player who used my download link in the description. Keep in mind that the promo code will only be available for 72 hours after your registration. Once you unlock the clan system, you can join my clan so we can beat raid bosses together. The clan name is shown on the screen. Back to the summons. Mother Superior seems like a great support at boosting the team's survivability. She applies attack reduction on the enemy, heals the team, and provides shields. I think she can be a good pair for supports that can only provide offensive buffs. Flesh Eater can freeze the enemy with basic attacks, decrease enemy turn meter with critical hits, and apply a huge attack increase on the team. Pretty solid champion for a 3-star. Sorceress is for players who likes to gamble, since one of her skill can hit up to 4 times if you are lucky. Her defense reduction can go up to -60% too, which is pretty strong. Finally, an epic champion. This guy is really good against enemies that keeps applying different debuffs on your team, since it could cleanse the whole team and apply continuous heal buff. The potency of the continuous heal depends on how many debuffs were removed. It also has an attack that places a bomb debuff on all enemies. When these bombs explode, it ignores enemy defense. At the same time, each bomb that detonates fills the turn meter of all allies. Now let's do some Void Shard summons. Paragon has a very interesting kit. He can keep an ally unkillable for 2 turns. And if the skill level is maxed, the cooldown is only 2 turns, meaning he could keep an ally unkillable almost permanently. Other than that, he can apply 100% heal reduction and 50% attack decrease, which is really good against certain enemies. Ripper Fist can apply attack decrease and heal reduction, but what makes him interesting is his passive, where whenever he drops to below 50% HP, he will reduce the cooldown of his skill. Running him with the life steal set could be a good idea. Rock Beast has a straightforward kit for a tank. He can provoke, increase his own defense, and perform an AoE attack that decreases the speed of all targets hit. Now let's do some Sacred Shard summoning. Hopefully, we can finally get at least one legendary champion here. Konoru has a simple kit. Her basic attack can prevent enemies from buffing themselves, and her other skill can apply Weaken debuff. What makes Konoru stand out is her AoE attack. First, it removes any defense increase buffs on all enemies. Then, attacks all enemies. Each kill with this AoE attack would decrease the cooldown of this skill by 1 turn, meaning it could keep resetting against content that requires you to fight multiple enemies or bosses that keep summoning adds. She is quite niche, but very solid overall. Tomoe only performs well if paired with another champion from the Shadowkin faction. Basically, her buffs improves as long as it's used on Shadowkin champions. She can place a 3-turn counterattack buff on a target ally, fills turn meter and critical damage of all allies, and finally, gives 30% increased critical rate for 2 turns. Her passive improves heals and turn meter fills coming from Shadowkin allies. Other than that, her basic attack has a small chance to steal a random buff, and her other skill is an AoE attack that inflicts attack decrease on all enemies. She is quite conditional but solid overall. Kaitis is quite unique for the fact that one of his skills is guaranteed to land multiple critical hits as long as the target has buffs. This means you can simply focus on his critical damage. When he drops below 50% HP, his other skill becomes available, which is an AoE attack that scales based on the amount of HP lost. Based on his aura, he seems to be a PvP specialized champion, but I can see him being useful for some PvE content. Bloodfeather is interesting for the fact that she has built-in increased critical chance for her attacks, which means you can just focus on increasing her critical damage. She can apply speed reduction, decrease target's turn meter, and reduce enemy defense. A very solid damage dealer against a single target. Finally, my first legendary champion that came from summons, Staltus Dragonbane. He is a defense scaling tank with AoE attacking capabilities. His main AoE attack applies a 60% defense increase on himself for 3 turns before attacking all enemies. Depending on enemy stats, he could either apply critical damage reduction or speed reduction. His other AoE attack has a 50% chance to stun all targets hit. Basic attack can decrease the turn meter of a target suffering from debuffs by 20%. His passive reflects Weaken. Defense reduction and poison debuffs back to the attacker. He seems pretty strong overall for a tank, but not exactly what I'm looking for. Now that I'm out of summons, let's check out Raid's Halloween champions, since the Halloween season is coming soon. Here's my top 3 recommendations. Quick disclaimer, I'm not a veteran. I can only give you my opinion based on my current knowledge of the game. First is Little Miss Annie. She seems to be an amazing main damage dealer that could be strong for both PvE and PvP content. First and foremost, her aura alone is a 33% unconditional attack increase for any battles. She seemed to start fights with her skill called Hollow Doll, which buffs herself before attacking a target twice. This attack ignores 25% of the target's defense. After that, she places a perfect Veil buff on herself, then fills her turn meter by 30% so she can take another turn faster. Once she buffs herself with Hollow Doll, she can use her other skill called Playdate to attack an enemy. This attack ignores 25% of the target's defense and destroys their max HP by 25% of the damage inflicted. If the target has higher defense and max HP, Annie repeats this attack. If the target is killed, Annie will place a Revive on Death buff on herself for 2 turns. If Annie somehow got killed and revived herself, she will trigger her passive, which forces her to attack the enemy who killed her with her basic attack. Then, she fills her turn meter by 25% and grants herself a shield equal to 50% of her max HP. Annie's basic attacks can hit up to 3 times. Each hit has 50% chance of inflicting 100% heal reduction and 60% defense reduction for 2 turns. This works in synergy with her other passive, where any of her attacks has 50% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 10%, and destroys their max HP by 10% of the damage inflicted, as long as the target is suffering from heal reduction or defense decrease. Next is Siphi the Lost Bride. Siphi is very stacked as a healer and support. Her basic attack has up to 100% chance to apply a sleep debuff on the target whose turn meter is above 50%. This sleep debuff cannot be resisted. If the target's turn meter is below 50%, Siphi would heal the team by 5% of their max HP. This means that Siphi could heal the team by up to 15% of their max HP per turn, if we also take into account her passive. That is some top-tier sustain. Her main buff skill, called Whirlwind Romance, applies debuff block, 60% defense increase, and 30% speed increase buff on all allies for 2 turns. Then, fills everyone's turn meter by 10%. If an ally dies, Siphi can revive them with her other skill called Love Beyond Death. Once revived, she heals them with 55% of their max HP and grants a full turn meter. Then, the revived ally is buffed with 50% increased attack and 30% increased critical rate for 2 turns. Not entirely sure, but Siphi seems like one of the meta supports of Raid. Lastly, we have Harvest Jack. Jack's kit is centered around the debuffs called Fear and True Fear. Fear basically has a 50% chance to cancel the affected target's skill and lose their turn. True Fear has the same effects, but once the affected target loses their turn, the cancelled skill will also go on cooldown. Knowing this, Jack seems to be excellent in both PvE and PvP content. His basic attack can hit an enemy up to 3 times. Each hit has up to 35% chance to steal 1 random buff from the target. If the target has no active buffs, each hit has up to 35% chance to place Fear debuff for 1 turn. If Jack manages to steal all buffs from the target, the chance to apply Fear becomes 100%. One of his AoE attack, called Lord of Terror, attacks all enemies and has up to 100% chance of placing True Fear debuff for 1 turn. Then applies a 30% speed decrease for 2 turns, and all targets has their turn meters decreased by 15% if the True Fear was applied. If True Fear did not apply, has up to a 100% chance to apply a sleep debuff instead. Jack's other AoE attack, called Dreams to Ash, attacks all enemies and places a buff block for 2 turns on targets affected by Fear debuff. Then removes attack increase and continuous heal buffs and replaces them with attack decrease and poison debuff for 2 turns. The number of poison debuffs is equal to the number of continuous heals removed. Lastly, whenever Jack is attacked, it will trigger his passive, which decreases the duration of all buffs on the attacker by 1 turn. Honestly, Jack seems very scary to fight against in the arena. And that wraps it up. Raid Shadow Legends has more than 4 million users and 250 million downloads in total. 800 plus champions, 16 factions, and 30 plus unique bosses. There's a million possible combinations and builds. Consistent monthly updates and high store reviews. Raid is cross-platform, meaning you can play anywhere with your friends, family, and your clan. Click my link in the description or scan my QR code to get your first legendary Loki the Deceiver champion for free simply by logging in. After downloading with my link, don't forget to use the promo code Monkey King to get a second legendary champion, Sun Wukong, for free. This promo code will be available only within the first 72 hours of registering, so be fast. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you on the next one.